Well, yeah, but I mean, if you start from a faulty assumption, then your entire premise is going to be wrong. Like
exactly, and that's my pick with evolutionary ideas is that I think they start from some faulty assumptions.
Okay, what are the faulty assumptions?
Exactly. Well, it's the assumption that everything that we observe can be explained naturalistically.
Okay, name one thing that we can observe that can't be proven natural, like through natural processes.
Well, I can name you two right quick. Okay. There's the origin of the universe, and there's the origin of life.
No, both of those things can be explained through natural processes, so neither of those things.
Okay, explain them to me then.
Okay, well, as far as the beginning of the Earth, or not beginning of the Earth, but beginning of the universe, we know that a Big Bang, well, that's actually a misnomer. There wouldn't have been a bang, but, there was a giant explosion.
I understand. It's commonly known as the Big Bang. That's right. The name given to it. And, right. And I'm not going... and I understand that, yeah, that's the misnomer part of it. That's not an issue with me.
Okay. But there was a vast expansion, and we're still going through that expansion today. So, I mean, the Big Bang explains that. Now, as far as what actually caused the Big Bang, science isn't sure of yet. But that doesn't mean that you automatically jump to God in order to explain it. Like, everything that has happened since the Big Bang can be explained through natural processes. And I think that you should really hold off on saying that God is the one that did it until you actually get some science to back it up. So, I mean, there's that. Then with abiogenesis, which would be the beginning of life, we don't know exactly what started life here. We have a lot of hypotheses about it, but we do know that once, the organisms were formed, we have a causal chain to link all organisms to a single-celled organism. Like, that's how organisms started out. Now, like I said, we do have a lot of good theories as to how life came to be here. We don't know exactly yet, but considering that everything to the left of it can be explained with natural processes and everything to the right of it can be explained with natural processes, it's really unreasonable to assume that a God had to intervene in that one little instant in order to, cause life to happen. We do have a lot of theories about how it could have started, like, for instance, panspermia. Panspermia is the thought process that life could have been started by like a meteorite striking here, and it had these microbes or whatnot, or some kind of proto version of life on it, and then that started it up. There's also a lot of research going into self-replicating RNA and how amino acids can form on their own, and how they can assemble on their own, and how they can actually end up replicating each other until you get a single-celled organism, and then evolution takes its way from there. So there's a lot of lines of natural explanations that we are testing out that can explain this. But true, we don't know exactly yet.
But if you back off from that and look at the overall picture, science, as it has been practiced, all the experiments that have ever been done have always pointed to, without exception, that life only comes from other life. We have tested it, we have tested it, and we have tested it. We have run experiment after experiment, and we have never come to anything other than that. And so according to the laws of science as we know them, there has never been any experiment that has demonstrated that anything other than what we call the law of biogenesis, that life comes from other life. Who was the scientist? Louis Pasteur did experiments that established that law. Now, today we have people who, through philosophical reasons, believe that sometime way back their life did come from non-life. And so they have developed more and more and more sophisticated hypothesis of how it maybe could. The problem is, the more we learn about the cell and the more we learn about life, the more and more impossible it looks. And yet, because people have convinced themselves that it did happen, but science has never shown, it's a philosophical reason to believe it, not a scientific reason to believe that it happened.
Well, okay, so as far as the law of biogenesis goes, Louis Pasteur didn't actually seek to prove that life cannot come from non-life. All he simply proved was that flies cannot come from rotting meat. He explained how the flies would lay their eggs there, and then the eggs would hatch, have larvae, and then, and then that's how the flies came out of the quote-unquote rotting meat.
Well, he did it with a lot more things than just rotting meat. He was looking at bacteria and various things. And yes, he disproved the common idea of the day of spontaneous generation, but the current theories are just a glorified version of the spontaneous generation that he showed to be unscientific.
Well, no, I would say that's a bit of a straw man because, the law of biogenesis or whatnot doesn't say that life cannot come from non-life, just that, life does produce life. I would say that abiogenesis is a current field that is being researched, and they actually have a lot of good evidence to back it up. Like, we have evidence of self-assembling amino acids. We have evidence of RNA molecules self-replicating, and we have evidence of all of this stuff. We have all the puzzle pieces for the start of life, but science always leaves itself open to change. And I feel like that is what is kind of getting you, getting you to stumble here, is because science allows itself to change. Science keeps itself open. We have all these puzzle pieces together, and while we can't put them together right now, that's no reason to jump to, God, or that evolution is false. So,
well, you say that science leaves itself open to change.
Right.
And I think you're implying that I don't leave myself open to change. But I definitely find that while, yes, scientists, whatever, are open to change in the details of how it may have happened, yet there is zero openness to, accept the fact that this whole theory of evolution may not have happened, or that abiogenesis may not have happened. I don't find you and people that I talk to about that any more open to change than why I do when it comes down to the basic underlying paradigm. There's no difference.
Well, no, I would disagree with that, because I'm completely open to change. I'm completely open to any... Oh, please don't laugh. I am open to it. It's just that there is no good evidence for it.
Yeah, I hope I didn't come across as mocking you when I chuckled there. I didn't mean to. And yeah, if it seemed that way to you, please forgive me. But I guess, it seems to me like in my investigation, there's plenty of evidence, and I realize that you can also find plenty of people that mock the evidence or look at it differently. There's definitely a lot of explanations out there, but for me, this is the best one. That makes the best sense of the evidence, and I realize that you look at the evidence coming from some different beginning worldview. I'll admit that, and it is very difficult for a person to finally change their basic worldview. I understand that. And I understand you could tell me that just as much as I can tell you that. I understand that too. But I personally remain convinced that my worldview best explains the evidence. Again, one of the things that I have never had anybody, and it's a little bit of a change of thing here, but from a totally naturalistic worldview, I don't see how you can account for many of the realities that exist that are non-material. Seems like naturalism accounts, well, things that I look at are things like consciousness, logic, free will, and I know that you can't prove that we have free will, neither can you prove that we don't. It's more of an intuitive feeling, although many people from a naturalistic worldview tell me that they believe in free will, but I have never been able to see how there could be free will if we're all just a product of our genes and our environment. And I don't see in a naturalistic worldview where there's room for anything other than that. But maybe it's because I don't understand the worldview. But some of those things are also why I hold to the worldview that I do, because it seems like I can't see how the naturalistic worldview can account for these things that are very real and yet cannot be explained by matter and energy.
Well, I mean, as far as consciousness goes, I mean, we can explain that with science, with biology and whatnot. Consciousness is just, the result of our highly evolved brains. I would say that, that is pretty well understood in biological science and all of that. As far as free will goes, I think it depends on how you define free will. I think that people, have a kind of a fake kind of free will, because everybody's kind of governed by their own moral sense, and that's developed through genetics and their environment and their experiences. So I just think that like a person that would never murder somebody or doesn't harbor those kind of feelings, wouldn't just up and decide to kill somebody one day. Like, I don't think that those things are a true reflection of reality. I think that people are governed by their own internal sense of morality, and in that sense, as far as it being governed, like their free will being governed by their own morality, I think that is an explanation for it. And I mean, it's true that your own internal sense of morality can change. And so what you may do throughout your life may change, but it takes a change through experience or your environment. or anything like that in order for that kind of change in your quote unquote free will to happen.
Well, at least I feel like you are being, at least on the free will issue, are being consistent with your worldview. But consider this, that if free will doesn't really exist, which is what I think I hear you saying, then, this whole conversation is pointless. Because my beliefs would be based on my genetics and environment, and yours likewise, and so even the conversation is pointless.
What do you mean by a conversation's pointless?
If there's no real free will, and I'm just a product of genetics and environment, then I'm saying what I've been programmed to say, and you're saying what you've been programmed to say. And if that's all, and if we're just a couple of robots here following our programming, the conversation is pointless.
Well, no, I wouldn't say the conversation is pointless because of what I stated earlier, and that would be that you can change through your experiences. And so I think that these conversations are very important because they contribute to the programmed to do these things. It's just that our mind works in a certain way, and like our minds can't act outside of that. Like for instance, if do you think that you have the capacity to go out and just shoot somebody in the head right now?
Well, okay. I definitely don't think I will. I know I won't. Do I have the capacity to? Well, obviously there's people who've gone berserk before that we don't understand why. But be that as it may, but don't get me wrong. I do believe in free will, and I believe in a free will that is real, not just depends how you define it. And of course, I believe in free will because I believe we were given free will by God. And I believe in free will because I believe there is a non-material soul, if you want to call it that I have, that, yes, interacts with my brain, but that I have a will that goes beyond just the programming of my environment and my genes. That I do believe in free will, and I feel, of course, that is consistent with my worldview, and it's why I have these conversations, because I don't think they're pointless. But I still feel like if the naturalistic worldview is correct, that it would be pointless.
Okay,
if you see what I mean.
Well, I mean, by that line of thought, you should be completely capable of going out and shooting somebody in the head. I mean, if you really have free will given to you by God, I mean, like when you wake up in the morning, do you consciously make the decision not to shoot your neighbor in the head?
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, I mean, do you ever feel the need to consciously make the decision not to do something that you consider bad?
Well, sure I do.
Okay, what's something that you consider bad that you have to convince yourself not to do?
Well, I face provoking situations in life, which I'm guessing you do. Maybe you're finding me provoking. I don't know. And you yourself have been polite and congenial. I appreciate that. definitely I talk to people at times that are not as polite and congenial as you are, and I have to consciously keep my my own feelings in check, my own responses civil and respectful. Have I always done perfectly at it? No. But, and of course, that's just on the phone. There's people I daily interact with, and you know, when they say or do things I don't appreciate, I have to, you know, consciously at times, you know, hold my tongue from what unkind words would want to come out. Obviously, if I didn't work on it at that level, I'd have to work on it at a, you know, a level of actual physical violence. But because I, you know, work on it more on the attitude and the speech level, and because I have committed myself to Jesus' teachings on non-resistance, non-violence, not hurting others, not killing others, and that's been a lifelong commitment, it's not something that I have to consciously say, no, I'm not going to go get my rifle and shoot somebody.
Okay, but would you say that me believing that your concept of free will doesn't exist, would you say that I am in that total capacity? Like I could shoot somebody and not care about it? Or I could go and just kill somebody for no reason?
No, I'm not saying that because I believe differently than you do, it makes me better than you, somehow makes me better than you, or that I think you're much more likely to, you know, go kill somebody than I am. I'm not saying that. I am saying that I believe in free will, and I don't believe that, and that's one of the reasons why that and some other things are one of the reasons why I don't believe in naturalism, because naturalism can't account for that. It cannot account for a consciousness that is more than just brain states, which to me it seems obvious that consciousness is more than brain states. I don't see how you can say that happiness is a brain chemistry. It just doesn't seem to fit. Although there's definitely your brain is related to some of that. And then there again, to look at logic. Logic is something that it's not something we invented. It's something that we discovered. We cannot change the laws of logic. It's something that seems very much to be imposed on us. And how can you account for that in a naturalistic world? Who or what established the laws of logic and math and so forth?
Well, I mean, I don't think that anybody created the laws of logic. I feel that the laws of logic are a human construct. So, I mean,
but if they were a human construct, it seemed like we could change them, but we can't.
Well, no, I mean, I think that we're fully capable of changing them. I mean, things like that change, over time. I know that the laws of logic have stayed solid, but at the same time, I think that they're still open to change because they're logical, or not logical, but they are human constructs that we have created in order to understand our world.
So you think someday we may wake up and things could be both A and non-A at the same time?
Well, I don't necessarily think
Then science would be impossible. If the laws of logic were changeable, science would be impossible.
Well, no, I don't think that in particular would be the thing that would change. Like, A could also be not A at the same time. I'm saying that the laws of logic, as we have determined them, they might change in the future. I mean, I'm saying that I don't know, but that they're human constructs that we have created in order to understand our world.
Well, I would grant that logic, that our understanding of logic and how it works can definitely be refined, just as it is with mathematics. We have refined and we have learned other areas of mathematics that, and some of them we have developed and learned about through basically mental exercise, and only after we developed them did we find how some of those related to nature. But still, it seems to me like they reflect laws that exist, pre-existing laws that we have discovered that, of course, imply a lawgiver. I don't think I need to tell you who I believe that lawgiver is.
No, I can venture a guess who you think that lawgiver is. I don't see the connection to a god, like, in that respect. Like, I don't see the connection to God in any of that. Like, I think that all that can be, explained with natural processes or natural explanations, because there hasn't been anything, that has been of supernatural explanation. Because, and in fact, speaking of logic, anything that we can prove is supernatural immediately becomes natural as soon as you prove it to be, as soon as you prove it to happen. So it becomes part of the natural world. So, I mean, there literally can't be anything supernatural. Supernatural is quite literally things that we don't understand. But I'm just
thinking through your logic there. But go ahead.
Well, I was just going to thank you for talking to me today. I know that I've kept you on the phone for about an hour, so I mean, I wasn't going to keep you longer than that.
Yeah. Okay. That's probably right. So my name is Philip, and your name?
My name is John Gleason. I live in North Alabama. Well, there you have it, heathens. My conversation with that. It was really good talk with Philip. Really appreciate him taking the time out with me. This is probably broken up into 2 different videos that I uploaded. So if you haven't seen the first one, please go watch that. This was a great discussion. I love discussing these things with people, especially to see how solid they are in their own position. I feel solid in my position because I have evidence to back it up. And despite what he thinks of me not being open to change, I very much am open to change. I'm very open to it. But the problem is that I haven't found anything at all to suggest that, the scientific evidence is wrong. So, anyways, guys, I hope that you love this video. Please leave a like if you can, and I hope that you guys will stand up and use your voice.